Beatboxing with the flute is super popular. Everybody's loving it, and there are a lot of people out there that are doing really great things with it. But I want to teach you the basics of it. A lot of you guys have probably seen the movie Pitch Perfect. The vocal percussion, the beatboxing, that's exactly what it is. It's meant to mimic a percussion section or a drum set. And when we do that on the flute, we're actually trying to mimic a drum set. So the basics of a drum set: you have the kick drum or the bass drum, you have a snare drum, and you have a hi-hat or cymbal. And the excuse me one second. The basics of that's all we need. And so we want to mimic those, and the sounds that we create by saying boots and cats, actually those syllables create the drum set. So we've got the boots and cats. How dare I mimic a drummer? Somebody's got to do it. So I'm going to start. Boots and cats. The consonants themselves, the B and the hard C or the K sound, the b b b b, and the k k k k, the bass drum. And you can work on placement of the jaw to create how deep that is. So if you just say b b b b and then don't vocalize, create the puff of air. That's the bass drum. All right? The easy one is the snare. It's just a K or a hard C sound. Pop the air. And then the cymbal itself, or the hi-hat, the TS on the boots and cats, the plural. Now, here's the catch. The problem is, what a lot of flute players will do, they'll go to beatbox and they'll go, and that pretty flute sound comes out, and they forget that when we're beatboxing, the starting of the beatboxing is really about mimicking percussion. You're using the flute to amplify it and maybe give a little bit of pitch to it, but not flute sounds right off the bat. Beatboxing while playing pretty flute melodies like Greg Patillo does all over YouTube, that's really challenging, and it takes a lot of practice. So we're going to just start with the basics so you can play with it. So if you have your flute handy, pick a note, low note preferably. The first thing we're going to do is the snare drum, the k, k. And I want you to pay attention that my face is not a flute embouchure, it's just letting the air go across the blowhole. And you can't be shy about it. It's got to be percussive. Next easiest one is the cymbal. It's a burst of air. And you notice my mouth the embouchure is nice and wide. The hard one for flute players is that bass drum, that popping noise, a lot of air. You got to spit a little bit, okay? So, okay? And if you can't see the Post-its I have all over my computer, but they're all waving as I do that. So, we're going to start with just the bass drum and the snare. So we're going to go, okay? And that's really about it. And I'm spitting all over my desk, so it's a good thing you're at home. All right. So now in between the upbeat, we're going to add the snare or the hi-hat or the cymbal. And again, it's not about making that flute embouchure. It's just about playing the beatboxing. So And I love doing this because there's a lot of, you get to really practice your breathing. And if you're feeling lightheaded, sit down because that can happen very quickly. But if you're thinking about new ways to practice scales,
So I just play it a few times to get it in my fingers in my ear. And then I go to measure 6. And then I would alternate between those two back and forth. And then I know that I'm going to play F flat once, and I have a whole note, a half note after that, and then in the following section, I play it with an F natural, and I just keep going on with that figure.
Right, yeah. So the one, I guess there are two main things about the Venn that I'll say that I really I find impactful. One is the versatility of the reeds. So as a kind of I guess a background as a classical player and an improviser, I want to be able to play all different dynamic ranges at any point. I want to be able to move from technique to technique. I want to be able to change tone. I want a round tone at times. I want a lasery acid like dicey tone. I want to be able to play overtones. I want to be able to gliss into the high altissimo. And so finding that sort of perfect balance of strength of reed, where I can do all of those things is really important. And Venn does that. Venn has the ability for me to play, as I just tried to demonstrate, very, very soft, very, very loud, but also just a myriad of techniques. So I can still subtone in the lower register or be able to slap on the low notes and be able to hit the high altissimo when I need to, right? So that's one thing that Venn's been great. I mean, just as Kane, was for me, and I find Venn, in addition, also just consistent, right? One of the issues with Kane is that you're changing reeds and you're not always getting the same perfect reed. But with Venn, you kind of move to the reed, it's consistent, so you learn to play it just like you would a mouthpiece or an instrument. It's got it's now part of the instrument, and it's less about bringing a new sort of person to the table every night. It's like it's the same. So in a way, I know how to rely on it. I know what things it's able to do. I know how hard I can blow before it cracks. I know how much I need to wet the reed in order to get it on and stuck. There's just a lot of different qualities to it that I really enjoy about consistency.
So one of my favorite things is I like to compare it a lot to sound Sudoku, or I like to compare it a lot to, let's see what else, going to the eye doctor. It's easy to just say, is this better? Is this worse? And one of the reasons why we have so many components is so you can find the perfect horn for you. Roughly how long does the instrument making process take? So the instrument process actually takes a little bit of a while. Our trumpets and trombones take around 150 hours each. But one of the really cool things is that we are able to see every single step of the process and make sure that everything is as thorough as possible as well. So anything from building valves to play testing, we will make sure that we do not advance to the next step unless that process of the build is absolutely perfect. So it's really great because we have incredible quality control throughout the entire process of the builds. And it ends up being a real joy to be able to play test these horns because you get to just have fun. It's kind of like working in a candy factory.